They saved a sinking ship. Liberal bailout sparks outrage. Ford praises Carney in shocking twist. They saved a sinking ship. That is the Liberal Party's defense of a controversial federal bailout to the struggling Just for Laughs festival and a rival comedy event in Montreal. The government insists this financial support preserves an iconic Canadian cultural institution and protects jobs, tourism, and the arts sector. However, this narrative clashes with a widespread public perception that taxpayer money is being irresponsibly poured into a failing festival during an era of economic hardship for many Canadians. The bailout involves a direct payment of $1.9 million to Just for Laughs, which filed for bankruptcy protection in 2024. Despite having received over $15 million in federal subsidies over recent years, the festival is still burdened with debts exceeding $23 million to creditors, including a Crown agency. At the same time, another $600,000 was granted to Comedy Fest, a competitor in Montreal's comedy scene. These facts have raised alarm bells about the government's fiscal oversight and the appropriateness of continuing to prop up organizations with clear financial mismanagement issues. Critics question why Ottawa should bankroll events that cannot sustain themselves in a competitive market. The public reaction has been intense and largely negative. Many taxpayers express outrage that millions of dollars are being spent on festivals while average Canadians face soaring inflation, rising housing costs, and economic uncertainty. Watchdog groups and fiscal conservatives criticize the government for rewarding failure, emphasizing that this money could be redirected toward vital public services such as healthcare, education, or social assistance for struggling families. In a country where many are tightening belts, the optics of funding a bankrupt comedy festival strike a sour note. Underlying the controversy is suspicion of cronyism. Melanie Joly, Minister of Tourism, Official Languages and Canadian Heritage, is a Montreal native with deep ties to the city's cultural institutions. Although no evidence explicitly shows favoritism, speculation lingers that political or personal relationships influence the decision to continue funding Just for Laughs despite its precarious financial position. Such perceptions erode trust in government spending decisions and fuel demands for greater transparency and accountability in Ottawa's allocation of public funds. At the center of this political storm is Prime Minister Mark Carney. Carney, who replaced Justin Trudeau following the snap federal election in April 2025, came into office with a reputation for economic expertise and promised greater fiscal discipline. Yet his handling of the bailout and the surrounding questions has been criticized as evasive and vague. When pressed, Carney tends to respond with technical jargon and platitudes, frustrating citizens eager for clear, honest communication about government spending priorities. This lack of transparency contributes to growing skepticism about his leadership. In a surprising twist, Ontario Premier Doug Ford publicly praised Carney during a recent Premier's retreat. Ford called Carney a brilliant businessman and a great Canadian patriot, comments that shocked many observers and conservatives alike. Ford's unexpected endorsement appears to be a strategic move aimed at fostering intergovernmental collaboration on economic and infrastructure initiatives. However, this praise has sparked backlash from Ford's conservative base, who see it as compromising core political principles, especially amid ongoing controversies over government spending and economic management. Reactions to Ford's comments are sharply divided across the political spectrum. Some applaud this gesture of bipartisanship in a polarized political environment, seeing it as a pragmatic step toward effective governance. Others, particularly grassroots conservatives, express confusion and frustration, perceiving Ford's support as a betrayal of conservative values. This episode underscores the delicate balance political leaders must strike between pragmatic cooperation and maintaining ideological consistency in a fractious political landscape. The bailout decision also comes amid a challenging economic backdrop. Canadians are grappling with rising inflation, higher interest rates, and growing cost of living pressures. For many, the government's choice to pour millions into bailing out a bankrupt festival feels disconnected from the harsh financial realities families face daily. While the Liberals argue that investing in cultural resilience and tourism is essential for long-term economic growth, public skepticism remains high about whether such expenditures are justified during times of economic strain. Provincial leaders like Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston have publicly distanced themselves from the bailout approach. Instead, they emphasize regional economic development through initiatives like interprovincial trade agreements, energy projects, and regulatory reform designed to boost local economies independently from federal largesse. This divergence highlights rising tensions between provincial governments and Ottawa over economic priorities, jurisdictional authority, and regulatory frameworks, complicating Carney's goal of fostering national unity. From the Liberal government's perspective, the bailout is about preserving an internationally recognized Canadian cultural brand and protecting thousands of jobs connected to the arts and tourism sectors. Supporters argue that allowing Just for Laughs to fail outright could have significant negative ripple effects on Montreal's economy and Canada's global cultural standing. However, many citizens remain unconvinced, viewing the bailout as an example of government overreach that rewards poor management and deepens dependency on public funds. This situation poses a significant test for Mark Carney's leadership, particularly his ability to maintain public trust and communicate effectively. Canadians increasingly demand accountability, transparency, and concrete results, not vague economic jargon or political doublespeak. Without a course correction toward openness and clear priorities, critics warn the Liberals risk alienating voters and weakening their political standing ahead of future elections. In summary, while Liberal supporters insist the government saved a sinking ship with this bailout, many Canadians see it as emblematic of larger issues: questionable fiscal responsibility, possible favoritism, and a widening disconnect between political elites and everyday citizens. Mark Carney's political capital appears fragile, especially in light of Doug Ford's unexpected praise, which adds complexity to an already polarized political environment. As public confidence wanes, the federal government faces mounting pressure to demonstrate responsible stewardship of taxpayer money and lead Canada toward a more inclusive, sustainable economic future.